This is the Tobago House of Assembly's Post-Executive Council media briefing for week ending July 14, 2012. With the Tobago Heritage Festival off and running, Festival Committee Chairman Wendell Berkeley gives some insight into what can be expected as the festival celebrates its 25th anniversary.
And we intend to make this celebration, or this year's celebration, one of the best. We started actually on June, 23rd of June, when we did the Belly Festival. But the month and the Honorable Secretary Tracy Davidson Celestine have dubbed this month as Unity Month. So we really actually started our activities on the 23rd, and then we jumped from the 23rd onto the 1st of July, where we had a series of activities. I'm sure you might have attended the drum call at Carla Hall. There was storytelling at Glen Road. We had a youth explosion at the Esplanade. And we also had the commissioning of the art exhibition. That was yesterday. We have other activities as we speak. We have the museum tours and display. And this year, we are focusing on the museum. Because what we recognize is that a number of Tobagonians, the tourist comes, and I guess the local and foreign tourists would come. When I say local, I'm speaking about the people from Trinidad and so. And they would come and go up to the fort at the museum. But I feel a number of Tobagonians and school children alike too, maybe they go from time to time. We don't really go up to the museum and get familiar with a lot of our history. And Mr. Hernandez have done a very good work at having his stuff together, and he's very knowledgeable on those artifacts. So we thought that we'd focus on the museum for this month, and so there's the month-long display and exhibition about the museum, and you could feel to pop in at any time, gather any information you want, and ask Mr. Hernandez any question. But we also sort of incorporated the Fisherman Festivals. We had the Charlottesville Fisherman Festival and Speyside. And whilst we did not take over the Fisherman and make it into a Heritage Fisherman Festival, what we had is the appearance of the Miss Heritage personality. We did some drumming, and of course, there was conversation re-heritage. The Fisherman Festival is, of course, a part of our heritage, and that is really celebrated as the Sea Festival in Blackrock. But again, the Fisherman Festival is a big thing throughout Tobago. But I want to really highlight the theme of this year's festival. The theme is Tobago Heritage, yours, mine, ours, to preserve and to protect. And the first three letters, yours, mine, and ours, really speaks to ownership. It is saying Tobago Heritage Festival, whether you think it's yours, whether you think it's mine, whether you're saying it's ours, it speaks to the ownership of the heritage of Tobago by Tobagonians. And we speak about preservation, and we speak about protecting it. And we must remember that we have a cultural heritage because it was preserved by our ancestors. We still eat kalaloo, which is a food that comes out of the African experience. And they still make kalaloo in Africa. They still make pong plantain and pong yam. And so some of the things that we have inherited was preserved by our ancestors under very trying times, under very trying conditions. And we are saying now that we are here, we have been celebrating our heritage, it is much easier for all of us to preserve and to protect it. But to preserve and to protect your heritage, you must first be able to identify what is this heritage? What is the thing that we have called heritage? And if you misunderstand that, then you wouldn't know what you're preserving and protecting. And you may very well preserve and protect the wrong thing. You may protect influences and things that may be destructive to our heritage. And so our heritage, really, in a nutshell, has to do with our natural resources. And some people may feel, well, natural heritage is dancing and wake and bongo. But our heritage is our natural resources. Those lovely beaches that you see all over, the rainforests, and the Pigeon Point Heritage Park, and all these nice landforms that we have and people enjoy, that is part of our heritage. It's part of our natural heritage. It means you have to take ownership of that part of your heritage, you have to preserve that part of your heritage, and you have to protect it. And that is something that we believe on the 25th anniversary of this celebration, that we should focus on preservation and protection. Because at the end, it is really what identifies the Tobagonian as being Tobagonian. It is that Tobago pride. And so I thought I should spend some time on the theme, because I want, as we go through the festival, in which most of the programs and most of the activities would have a flavor of the theme, that you would always remember. Every event that you go to, you remember, be it natural heritage in Charlottesville, you'd remember that the seas and the borders and the lands are part of our heritage. Be it Salaka Feast in Pembroke, you remember that the food and the way we prepare it, and the rolled rice and the concomte and all that is part of our heritage. So regardless of wherever you are and wherever you go, you will remember that this year the theme is preservation and protection of our heritage as displayed throughout the entire island. Another major event would be the Miss Heritage Personality Celebration. And that always creates excitement because, Tobagonians especially love a good queen show. Mm-hmm. That's one of the things that I know about us. But this year we are doing the personality presentation again with some more flair. Mind you, we are not taking out its originality, but we, again in the 25th anniversary celebration, we want to hype it to another level. And so there have been some intense activities with the young ladies. All the young ladies have been selected. Various communities have been represented. And they have been put through their paces. They have been making appearances on the television. I told you already they have been at Charlottesville and Speyside Fisherman Festivals. Some of which I call the main events, really, are the village events. And we have the Moriah wedding, which we are going to ensure that we try to bring it up again to 25th anniversary standards, because you always try to, a wedding is something you could always, that's the good thing about a wedding. You could always improve on it. You could always improve on the fashion, you could improve on the speeches, you could improve on the gala. So we again are seeking to do that. And Charlottesville Natural Heritage, Salaka Feast at Pembroke, Keenan Bon Accord, Black Rock and the beach, all the village activities. Again, we have asked that the people put special emphasis on the fact that this is the 25th anniversary and that the theme of this heritage celebration is preservation, protection, but in addition to that, ownership of our heritage.
Taking the reins, the Chief Secretary congratulated the students and their supporters on their recent SEA results, which has seen greater improvement from previous years.
I recognize, however, that we still have a long way to go. There are a number of areas of concern, and I'm happy that the Division of Education, Youth Affairs and Sport is addressing these issues and has put in place various measures to treat with some of the challenges which face us in Tobago. But one heartening aspect, of course, is the fact that all the students who would have sat the common entrance have a level of confidence that each of them would be going into an institution at which they can, in fact, be the best that they could be. And this is not just a platitude. And sometimes we need to understand where we've come from so that we can recognize the opportunities that are now available to us. In the year 2000, there were over 1,400 persons took the then common entrance. And at that point in time, there were 5 secondary schools in Tobago. So those students were actually vying for places in 5 secondary schools. In 2012, 881 students took the common entrance exam, and they were in fact going to be placed in nine secondary schools. So that we actually had, between 2000 and 2012, 4 new secondary schools, and we had almost 600 less students, almost 50% of the students, and almost twice the number of schools. So I'm saying this for us in Tobago to recognize that where availability of infrastructure is concerned, Tobago in education, as in most of the other areas, is in a very, very favorable position. And therefore, all of us have a responsibility, whether you're a 12-year-old going into secondary school, or the parent or guardian of that 12-year-old or the teacher, that we have a responsibility to ensure that we maximize those opportunities which have been made available, because we've come a long way since 2000, and we've got to be able to ensure that we can take advantage of those opportunities. So I really want to wish those young people the best when they go out on September morning, as we put it, and to ask the parents and guardians to continue supporting them. In fact, I've always told parents and guardians that their students need their support now, maybe even more than when they were at primary school, because the environment is different and the support systems are different, and therefore the role of the parent and the guardian must also be different. And I really hope that the parents and the guardians understand their responsibility.
Mr. London met recently with newly appointed Minister for Tobago Development, Dr. Delman Baker, where a number of issues were discussed. The Chief Secretary went into detail on the matters raised.
The meeting was called at the request of the Minister, and I must commend him for being so gracious. And it was supposed to be an informal meeting, which in effect turned out to be into a 90-minute conversation, very wide-ranging. Obviously, we can't speak of all the things that were discussed, but cordial and somewhat hopeful, let me put it like that. There were a number of issues which I would have raised with the Minister to give him an idea of some of the issues which are of concern to us in the Tobago House of Assembly, and issues which we believe that he, in his capacity, not just as Minister for Tobago Development, but as a Tobago representative and a Tobagonian, should in fact give some priority. We discussed in the first place the role of the ministry and the minister and the role of the Tobago House of Assembly. And the point I made to him is that as far as my interpretation of the process is concerned, the Tobago House of Assembly must be allowed to take sole responsibility for those areas over which it has been given responsibility in the 5th schedule. And the Tobago House of Assembly would recognize that the Minister of Tobago Development will be the representative of the central government in respect of those areas which the central government has control of under the 6th schedule. And then there should be collaboration between the Ministry of Tobago Development and the Tobago House of Assembly in respect of what you might call common matters and common issues. And of course, that the Ministry of Tobago Development is also the conduit between the Tobago House of Assembly and the Cabinet. And of course, we discussed that. We didn't agree on all aspects of it, but I think that I made it very clear to the Minister that we will continue to insist that the role of the Tobago House of Assembly in relationship to the 5th schedule areas, that role should in fact be respected. As I said, I was quite heartened, by the frankness of the discussions and the fact that the Minister has indicated that he's willing to meet, he and members of his team are willing to meet with the Assembly either on a regular basis or as the need arises. But among the issues which we discussed and the issues which I consider critical was that of the Local Public Assistance Board. I think we're all aware of that particular situation, and I indicated to the Minister that, from his perspective, that he should recognize what has happened over the past 30 years and whether one considered it to be the law or not, but that the requests of the Secretary of Health and Social Services should in fact be respected. And that has happened over the past 30 years, that the Minister should take that into consideration and make the recommendations to Cabinet that will allow Cabinet to make the recommendation to the President for the approval. I made it very clear that the idea was not that we in the Tobago House of Assembly believed that the Tobago House of Assembly has the responsibility and has the authority to appoint the board. The Tobago House of Assembly has the responsibility and the authority to do what it has done for the last 30 years, which is to recommend the members to the board. And we said we were hoping that the minister had the integrity which ministers over the past 30 years have had, which is to understand the realities of the situation, that it is a local board, and therefore it is in everybody's interest to allow local persons appointed by the local authority to be the ones to do the representation. I did not get full agreement on that, but at least his response was not as insensitive as that of the minority leader, who in one of the most amazing, disappointing, distressing statements that I have heard in a long time, as a Tobagonian coming out of a Tobago House of Assembly, representing Tobagonians, is going to tell the Tobago House of Assembly, of which he is a member, that in a situation where we have followed a policy for 30 years, and the central government, or the government of the day with which he is closely associated, is prepared to undermine that long-standing and honorable process and tradition, that his recommendation to resolve the problem is that we should take his government to court. And I think that when I heard that, I told myself, and a number of people have understood that the minority leader, Ashworth Jack, has finally discarded his Tobago cloak. Finally discarded his Tobago cloak. Because that was not a Tobagonian talking. That was not a representative of the Tobago House of Assembly talking. Because I'm saying that instead of supporting us, because this is somebody who claims alliance with Arthur N.R. Robinson. This is somebody who speaks about being nurtured under Ho Choy Charles. And I asked him to tell the people of Tobago how with Arthur N.R. Robinson, how with Ho Choy Charles, how with Lennox Denoon, how would these individuals have responded in a similar situation? Would it have been simply saying, let us relent, let us not fight, let us allow the central government to go ahead with this board and then carry them to court and hope for the best? In a situation like this, all of us as Tobagonians and Tobago representatives have to take a firm stance, because if we do not do that, we will, of course, be overwhelmed by the forces of the central government. I spoke to the Minister Baker, about the $100 million that is still owed to the TRHA, and explained to him, as somebody just coming out of the Ministry of Finance, two very important facts. Because if you're talking law, then in effect the central government is performing an illegal act on two counts. One, the $100 million is part of the parliamentary appropriation, and that funding was passed by the Parliament of Trinidad and Tobago. And the cabinet and no minister has the authority to override a parliamentary approval or parliamentary allocation. And from that perspective, they're breaking the law. The second aspect is that in the last allocation to the Tobago House of Assembly, Tobago got the barest minimum under the Dispute Resolution Commission of 4.03%. So if you take away from that the $100 million allocation, it means, therefore, that at the end of the year, Tobago's total allocation will be less than 4.03%, which would be in breach of the Tobago House of Assembly Act and the Dispute Resolution Commission. As I indicated the last time, we have also, the Secretary of Finance has also written to the minister, the newly appointed minister, who has had a close association with Tobago over the years, and I really hope that we will be in a position to get some positive information from him. Among the other issues that were discussed were the police station at Roxburgh and Old Grange, 2 years overdue, and we are hoping that the newly appointed Minister of National Security will consider that to be a priority. And I did raise the question of second carnival for Tobago. And I was very interested when I got from the minister a lack of enthusiasm for that particular project. And I really am hoping that that will put pay to that particular initiative. But I'm getting conflicting signals from this newly configured cabinet, because I have seen reports that both the Minister of Tourism and the Minister of Culture have been mouthing, sentiments which seem to suggest support for the second carnival. So although it was interesting and heartening to hear from the Minister for Tobago Development that he was not enthusiastic about the idea, I still am a little bit confused as to which minister is in fact, giving the view of the cabinet and the view of the government on this particular issue. And we discussed the process for the review of the Tobago House of Assembly Act. And in relationship to that, I just need maybe to make 2 or 3 comments. Because at this forums like this, I would have spoken on a number of occasions about the rationale for the position which the Tobago House of Assembly would have taken. We have now reached a point where there seems to be something of a standoff, where the Tobago House of Assembly has the bills which represent the views of the people of Tobago. And those bills have been discarded, we know that. The Attorney General has put into the public domain his own bill, which has now become the Green Paper. And efforts are being made to sanitize the process, to give credibility to the process, and to convince the people of the country that the people of Tobago are, in fact, likely to buy into the process. But sometimes the best way to examine the validity of a process is to look at the arithmetic. And you remember that the Prime Minister, in an effort to give the impression that Tobagonians and the people of the country would be involved, decided that she will appoint a committee which will go throughout Trinidad and Tobago to get the views of the people of Trinidad and Tobago. And as a result of these deliberations, you would then have a situation where the committee would make recommendations, and then the Green Paper will be transformed into a white paper based on these recommendations. But I want you all, as members of the media, to look at what is happening and to look at the arithmetic of the process. I am aware of the numbers coming out of 3 of the meetings that have been held to date. The meeting at Ravenel's in Tobago, as far as I'm aware, the number of people there about 55, no more than 60. Although they claim in 100, we know that it was not more than 60, 55, 56. There was a meeting held at the Learning Resource Center where there was a grand total of 9 persons present. There was a meeting held at Napa, and when the person whom we asked to go and check left, and that was the meeting had already started, there were 4 people there, 2 technical people and 2 members of the public. That is the reality. And therefore, the question that I have to ask myself, and you, the members of the media, and the people of Trinidad and Tobago have got to ask themselves, of what value is this process if those are the kinds of numbers which the committee is able to attract? And why it is that the committee is not able to attract. And I want you to compare them with the numbers in relationship to the other side, that is the Tobago side or the Tobago House of Assembly side. All of us will know the kind of turnout we had at Roxborough, the kind of turnout we had at Mariah, the kind of turnout we had at Scarborough when the when Mr. Martineau was there with the committee to meet with the people. And that was, of course, a follow-up on the 41 community meetings that were held. But I also indicated that one of the things that we will be doing is to go throughout and ask Tobagonians who were supportive of the THA bills and who were supportive of the process initiated by the Tobago House of Assembly to sign a petition asking the Prime Minister to place the bills coming out of the deliberations in Tobago into the public domain as a green paper so that that too can be discussed. And at last count, and this was maybe about almost a week ago, we had a total of 4,295 signatures. And of course, by now I'm certain that it should be close to 5,000. The point I'm making, and these are people who actually listened, whether it was at a meeting, on the road, wherever, and we have over 4,000 Tobagonians saying, central government, Prime Minister, put our views on the table. You don't have to agree with it. You don't even have to accept it. But in the same way that you're putting the Attorney General's views into the public domain, put our views into the public domain and let the people see it, let the people talk about it, let Trinidad and Tobago have a conversation about it. And I'm saying that I have personally gone into my electoral district and spoken to my people. And I can tell you categorically that more than 90% of the people whom I would have approached have in fact indicated, and it had nothing to do with politics. I didn't go there as PNM, I went there as their representative to talk to Tobago people's business. And more than 90% of the people whom we approached would have listened and signed. And we did not get signatures from anybody except we explained the situation to them. I think you'll have seen the documentation where the choices are there set out very clearly. And all I'm urging the central government to do is to have a rethink and to recognize that the situation can still be rescued. All that the people of Tobago and the Tobago House of Assembly are asking, and are contrary to what a lot of people are saying, even newspaper commentators, contrary to what they are saying, the Tobago House of Assembly, the people of Tobago, do not want to force anything down the throats of the people of this country. All they are asking is that in the same way that you have put the Attorney General's bills into the public domain, let us put the Tobago House of Assembly bills into the public domain as a green paper so that that too can be discussed and the people of the country can have a conversation on what has come out from the people of Tobago.
You have been watching the Tobago House of Assembly's Post-Executive Council Media Briefing for week ending July 14, 2012. For the Department of Information, I am Sophie Dio.